seeking and needing access to cannabis. They should not be having to beg for this. They should not be having to, well, subject themselves to the kind of vigorous fucking hoop jumping to gain access. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over, and each one of them will introduce themselves, give you a brief synopsis of why they are. Excuse me, Miss Blackwell. It's you that's causing the distraction here.
I realise that now.
So here we go, guys. We are going to do this panel, and then we'll throw it out to some questions once they've done their introductions.
Hi, I'm Tannine Montgomery, and I'm Indy Rose's mum. Indy has intractable epilepsy, so she suffers with seizures daily. She also has cognitive decline, so she doesn't talk very much, and she suffers with walking problems, ADHD, autistic traits, so various different issues which we all know that cannabis can alleviate. I started looking into cannabis when regular pharmaceuticals were failing Indy and actually making her probably worse in her situation. We started looking into medical cannabis, and there's a lot of research globally about how it's effective for seizures as a rescue medication or as a maintenance dose. So we decided to start using cannabis oil within the UK that was legal to us, so just CBD oils, but we found that getting different oils all the time, we couldn't regulate how much we were giving her, and also we have no dosing information in the UK. We certainly didn't when we chose to travel to Holland. So we did a lot of fundraising, and we saw improvements in the UK oil that we used, so we did a lot of fundraising and took Indy to Holland to get a GMP approved medical cannabis because we want it on an NHS prescription, and that's vitally important because this medication costs a lot of money. We were asked to prove effectiveness. We did that. We've got a child now who is seizing up to 80% less, has no panic attacks whatsoever, no insomnia, and is able to run and play and go to school. So we've proved that effectiveness to our doctors for the last 9 months. She doesn't take any other anti-epileptic drugs, and we applied to the expert panel for licensing. We followed every legal route they asked us to. And we were given a licence by the expert panel, which since the law has changed has been taken away from us, and we still have to fundraise and travel back and forth to Holland illegally, making us criminals to maintain our daughter's well-being, to keep her safe, to stop her ultimately having seizures that are life-threatening, to give her a quality of life. So that's my background on cannabis and why I'm here today.
My name is Callie Blackwell. For those of you who heard me earlier, I'm not going to go into depth in Deryn's story really, but basically I gave my son a cannabis preparation after he was given 3 days to live, and we were sent to a hospice. Deryn had cancer twice and then subsequently had 4 failed bone marrow transplants. So I've seen the effectiveness with cannabis with the immune system. I've subsequently, in those last 5.5 years that Deryn's been on oil every single day, I've seen the repair and recovery that he's gone through that apparently is still impossible. And so I know that he needs it for the rest of his life, and I know that he has recovered in a way that, like I say, they call miraculous. So now I'm in a position where I'm fighting more for him to not be a criminal, because he shouldn't have to be illegally alive, and face persecution and prosecution just for staying well. So I fight for the legalisation of cannabis for that reason, and I also help other parents who find themselves in a similar situation. So that's where my views or my experience lies.
Well, I'm Deryn Blackwell, and that is basically me, so.
What can he say? Not a lot. I just told the story.
I'm Geraldine Woodman. My son's Eddie. He's 7. He's got epilepsy, but also cerebral palsy. He's severely brain damaged. He'll never walk or talk or do anything much, but he has got a better quality of life since he started on cannabis 12 months ago. He never had any eye contact, he couldn't look at no one, he couldn't see anything in front of his face. He now follows you around the room, every little movement, he's there with his eyes watching you. His seizures have reduced, although we still do see seizures every day. He's not on a prescription, so I'm having to do it myself, which I shouldn't be doing, but I want to give him the best quality of life that I can. While he's still here. And he's 7-year-old, and my only other option is to knock him out, basically, so he can't function. But he will still have seizures every day. Now, I can't cure him with it, and I know that, but I can give him a better quality of life than what he's ever had in 12 months. Schools have noticed it, doctors have noticed it, they have seen a big difference in him. And we need a change in the law where we're not going to be criminals, as kids are getting what's needed, and other people as well. It's not just kids, it's not just epilepsy, this is about everybody that deserves a quality of life more than anything.
Hi, my name's Jane Clements. I'm a cannabis activist and I have 2 children. They're both adults now. I've been helping people access illegal oils and educating people about cannabis for about 4 years or so, but I've been using cannabis myself medicinally since my 20s really. So I know quite a lot about cannabis, as it goes. Recently I started treating my son, who's now an adult, but he suffers he's on the autistic spectrum. He's a high functioning Asperger's, and any time there's any change in his life, he just goes really down, he just can't handle it at all. And so I've recently started treating him with cannabis tincture and vaping high THC. And he's never taken cannabis before. He's very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's a Puritan. He doesn't take any alcohol, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't swear, he never breaks the law. He likes everything to be in perfect control and everything to be absolutely proper and everything. And so cannabis has helped him enormously, and I don't know why I didn't think of it before, to be honest with you. So
Wonderful. And if I'm louder than like that, no, evidently not. Thank you very much, ladies, for all giving a brief synopsis of your stories and what brought you here today. Do we have any questions from the audience for these wonderful people? Well, I'll ask my own question then. What is it that you are looking for here? Would you be placated by access to a pharmaceutical drug? Would you be happy to grow your own? What is it that you are seeking here?
From my perspective, my child needs an NHS prescription. She will never be in a position to grow cannabis. She won't be cognitively able to grow cannabis. And unfortunately, as life goes on, parents die and children are left behind. And if my child inevitably ended up in the care system, she needs an NHS prescription so that the care system will provide her with the only medication that keeps her alive. So from that perspective, I want NHS prescriptions available, but I don't want pharmaceutical. When I say pharmaceutical cannabis, I want whole plant extract cannabis, and it must be clear that it is whole plant extract and has the synergy effect, because it is not CBD that stops seizures and it's not THC that stops seizures. It's somewhere in between all them things with all the other cannabinoids and terpenes that work together to give these people a better quality of life. My concern is if it's pharmaceuticalised too much, we end up going the wrong way, where we end up with high pharmaceutical grade medication like Epidiolex and Sativex available to people, or certain people where postcode lottery, and we lose our CBD market, which would inevitably make lots of people very, very sick. Lots of people rely on the general CBD market, but I believe it needs to be more regulated so people know what they're buying, and also it should be freedom of knowing dosing. We should be able to tell people you need this much cannabis oil to help with these seizures, or you need this, and we need that information readily available to us. We shouldn't have to search for it.
Ultimately, what I want to see is freedom of choice. So pharmaceuticals have their place, and I actually totally agree with Tannine in the pharmaceuticals, if they're going to be there, they have to be the best pharmaceuticals, not ones just to generate more money, as in pharmaceuticals that actually work. I want to see people be given the right to grow their own and produce their own medicine, because even the growing itself is very cathartic. It's part of the empowering of making yourself better. So I want to see people have access to that. And ultimately, I just want people to, I would love to see what happens in America actually with hospitals. Is that there's a brilliant film out at the moment called Weed the People. I think it's on Netflix today actually, and there it shows in America where there is a cannabis doctor and she actually works alongside the normal doctors, and you have a choice to say, look, I don't want to try conventional treatment right now. I want to try this. So the doctor goes okay and brings in Mara, and then they work together. And then they might say, oh, it's not really working, or we're not seeing enough of a reduction in the cancer. And then the doctor will say, well, there's still chemo if you want it. And they go, okay, and they work together in conjunction. The woman is in America in hospital wards giving cannabis oil to children alongside the doctors giving them chemotherapy, because I'm not in a position to say whether or not you should do chemotherapy or not. That's not my decision. But I would say if you are going to have chemotherapy, then really do cannabis beside it, because it protects your healthy cells, and I could go into that all day. But what I want to see is that people are getting the option of cannabis right at the very beginning of their diagnosis, not when it's too late and they come to me because they've got 3 weeks to live, and because it's too late then very often. So I want freedom of choice and the options there and the goods. I'm not against pharmaceuticals. If pharmaceutical company tomorrow could give me the same oil that I give my son to the same standard without the horrible things, exactly the same oil, you're damn right I'd take a prescription, because I don't want him to be a criminal. But they can't do that, and they won't do that. So that's what I want to see. I want to see all types of products within cannabis available to everybody, and write a diagnosis, not years down the line. So thank you. Sorry, I can't hear you, darling.
Sorry. THC compound is actually being grown now on the east.
Yeah, apparently so. There's a few grows that are popping up all over the place at the moment. I think there's one going to be near. Yeah, there's one in Bristol. I think is going to pop up. But they're growing it. They've been growing it for years in this country. So, it's.
They still won't let us have it.
They still won't let us have it, no, because it's. Yeah, that's another subject. You need to answer this question. What do you want to see?
I completely agree with you. It makes sense to have everything, because pharmaceuticals helped me out a lot. Mm-hmm. They really do have their place, but cannabis helped me a lot more for longer without the detrimental side effects.
So you have a very unique, you were nearly killed by pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
You've had every pharmaceutical drug going, and you've been on cannabis treatment, only cannabis, for the last 5 years. So you were actually on the time scale, you were on for equal amount of time. And so you, if anybody, the difference between pharmaceuticals, or what's available pharmaceutical-wise, and the cannabis that you have.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what you want to see for everybody.
Yeah, just
Everything.
But I'd say cannabis before other ones, really. I would recommend.
So cannabis would rather than being large, okay.
Or very minimal conventional treatment with
So like
more
America.
homeo. Yeah, like America, I'd say.
I'd be happy with a prescription, wouldn't bother me at all. At the moment, we're having to do it alone, so I will keep going. I'm hoping it'd be nice if everybody could have this without breaking the law or having to raise ridiculous amounts of money. They shouldn't be doing this. They should be spending quality time with the kids. But yeah, we all want what's right. Whether it's, I think we all agree, either grow your own for adults and let the kids have the pharmaceuticals and see how we go from there. But pharmaceutical ain't going to work for everybody, and it isn't going to work for every child either. It's not a one size fits all. Eddie hasn't got a syndrome, so it's not like they can look at him and think, well, this works on a certain syndrome and this one doesn't. He hasn't got a syndrome. He's really, really complex. He's got scars on his brain, so it's not like they'll never be able to cure him. But if we can slow the seizures down, then that's all I want. So whether it's pharmaceutical or whether I have to go down the other route, I'm not bothered either way.
Well, a lot of what I think has already been said, but I think there should be freedom of choice. There's an obvious need for pharmaceutical cannabis. It needs to be regulated under the strictest, most stringent sort of policies. It absolutely has to be accurate and on the button every time. In the herbal world, we can't really offer that. It's a more organic process, and for many people, that won't be a good enough level of medication. It needs to be more precise. And so I absolutely see a need for the pharmaceutical employment of cannabis. I also think it's really important to have the freedom of choice to grow your own. Cannabis is a herb, it's harmless, it's very, very good for everybody. Everybody should be taking cannabis whether they're ill or not. Our endocannabinoid system is what keeps us healthy. Cannabis supports the endocannabinoid system. That's all you need to know. You know, you should be able to grow your own and be proactive in your own care plan. Growing cannabis is very therapeutic in itself. It's gardening, you're taking an interest in your own health. It often has a knock-on effect, and you start taking interest in other health issues. You improve your life vastly. You know, it's a good thing all around. Holistically, it's got to be a good way to go. Some people might do both. They might grow a cannabis plant and have a pharmaceutical application, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there should be freedom of choice. I think there's a danger that we're all being herded and kind of driven like sheep into a pen of pharmaceutical world of cannabis, where the plant is kind of getting left behind, and we're going to move away from the beauty of that plant itself. You know, originally we had that. It was taken away for corrupt and frankly heinous, you know, reasons, and it should be given back to us. It belongs with humanity. It's, you know, it's how we colonize the world, with hemp seed.
Hey. God, that was louder than I was expecting. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Here we go.
How do you find out the right oils for you? Where would you go, to sort out what oil you need?
This, as Tannine was just saying, this is half the point. It's very difficult. We don't know, so we have to experiment. For me, the research that I've done and the people that I've worked with over the last few years, I've learned some things that certain cancers need different ratios of THC to CBD and things like that. But other than that, I don't know. So we've got a base mark, but we are experimenting because nobody's helping us. So we are literally having to just find out. And the way you know that it all works for you is because you feel better.
So your son, does he get high when he's on?
Not now, because the maintenance dose that he's on, it's tolerated, but he consumes cannabis in other ways, and he does get high. In fact, I'll let him answer the question.
Do you get high, Deryn?
Yes, because being high is part of the medicinal effects. Being high makes you feel good, it makes you feel happy, it makes you feel less depressed and stressed about life. So it does, there is the argument that, oh, you can't stand reality, but it is also reality as well. It's not, you're not completely disconnecting. It is just less stressful. It's like having a coffee or having a glass of wine or something like that. It's no more than that. You'll never lose control, or you'll never. You can't overdose on it. So it's not gonna hurt you in any way, and it will, if you do top over the edge, if you do feel a bit funny, there are ways to come back from it. There are ways to come back from it, and eventually it will end. So, yeah.
And that's what worries me.
I'd like to sneak in with a comment here. Again, Deryn.
Sorry, can I just answer that lady's question as well?
Go on.
Just because you're talking about what types of cannabis and strains, etc., are good for you, it depends what illness you're trying to treat or if you're just trying to feel well. I just want to make it quite clear that the young children and adults that take it for seizures or anxiety and things like that, it's generally a really high ratio of CBD and a lot less ratio of THC to what Deryn would be taking. So I can honestly say from my point of view, the pharmaceutical drugs sedate or make you high and have psychoactive effects listed on every single box. and a lot of them are unlicensed, not tested in children, yet we're only asking for an unlicensed product that has been tested all over the world and is safe for consumption. The levels of THC are very, very low. So I just wanted to make that point. Depends what you're wanting to treat, really, as to how high you would feel.
Yeah, I can add to that. So if you wanted to deal with your pain, like in a tincture that I would help someone access, the chances are that you would deal with your pain before you even got high, because the pain receptors is one of the first things to kind of get treated with cannabis. That's why it's so good for pain. So yeah, you'd likelihood that you'd sit there and go, actually, I'm not in any pain. Oh, but I'm not high. You know, there's certain illnesses. So cancers do require, according to research, quite high amounts of THC. So you are, if you're ingesting 1 gram a day of oil, you are going to get high. And so this is why it's advised to build up very slowly and to use tinctures rather than neat oils and things like this. But yeah, as Tannine said, you know, different illnesses need different ratios, and the chances are you would be able to deal with your symptoms without getting too much of the psychoactive effect.
Yeah, I would. It's true though, and some people would actually rather die than be high. I've had that conversation.
I just want to make a point. Every weekend, everyone alters their state of reality by being pissed, and that is extremely much more dangerous. And knowing people who are actually alcoholics and have their sense of reality from morning till day, until night, is utterly altered. So, I've never smoked, I've never experienced, but I'm here to learn. But what I can see straight away, someone who's high and happy is in a much safer state than someone who's got a seduced.
Yeah, the only dangers, you know, being high is you're a danger to the fridge, and that's really it. You know, or the local pizza shop, they're going to get busy with you nearby, but you're not. I was a bouncer for 7 years, and I ran a nightclub that was really busy. And my God, I'd rather have had people smoking weed in there than the cocaine and the alcohol and and alcohol it destroys families, but it creates a lot of revenue, creates a lot of money, does as tobacco, because like with pills that have side effects, these are vices, these are habits that have side effects, and they can cash in on all of that. And alcohol kills you,
Yeah, they don't want you to have, cannabis that's going to help you.
No, I'm still learning that.
Last comment, please, ladies.
Free the weed.
Yeah, literally sentence from all of you, go.
No, I can't.
Surmise it, come on.
Surmise what?
In a sentence. Why do you fight?
Why do I fight? Because I know it works. I know it works, and I knew. And the second that I saw how much cannabis worked with my very own eyes, that time when his bloods were there, and then the second time when his appetite was there, and then now the recovery that has just been, like I said earlier, they're now looking at long-term side effects of infertility and all these things, and he should have liver failure, heart defects, blah 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 blah, cataracts by now. He should have cataracts, right? And they're looking at him going, your eyes are better than they were, your liver's better than it was. Actually, and he's just had a test for infertility the other day. He had to go and have the test, so we'll find out there. But so I know, because that's the only drug he's been on. It's the only medicine he's been on for the last 5.5 years. So I know that it works. And when you know something, then you have to. You can't not fight for it.
Would you like to?
I fight for medical cannabis purely because when you see a child having seizures daily to the point where they have no quality of life, and you can give them a plant that gives them a quality of life, you have no choice but to fight. But the hardest thing is that you are fighting something that should never have been taken away. In the first place, it should never have been taken away, and we should have looked into this years ago. My fear is they probably did, and that's why it's legal.
Beautiful. Once again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you very much, guys.